so that you accurately identify and acknowledge that feeling for that person before you take them into the lead. Because you could take them to a place where they don't want to be, and that's not the point of coaching. So it's, remember, taking that valued person from where he or she is to where he or she wants to be, and you have to frame that desired state for them. And in order to do that, you have to first truly acknowledge what the existing state is.
So that pause is another tool cluster added, another tool added to that cluster. And exactly what you said, you have to pause after giving the existing state to make sure you've got it right. Because a lot of times what you can do is just flip where they are here to say, and this is what you want. And it's like a 180 here. But you have to get that right in order to be able to do that. So yes, you're going to pause after that existing state. Make sure you've got that right.
When you guys were practicing with your paraphrasing and the last round you practiced when someone didn't quite nail it, and it feels a little bit awkward at first, and you recognize if that person doesn't sign off on the paraphrase, that's okay. I mean, that's what we also learned on back in day 2. Then you just re-give it. It's like the fishing again. So maybe you need to give them a word at another level. So maybe they're not frustrated, maybe they are annoyed. And so once you nail the existing state, then you're freer to go to the desired state.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys. This can get frustrating sometimes. Like with this situation, I was telling you about my husband kept using the word irritated. I may have used the word irritated. But when he was giving it back to me, it was like that, no, I'm not irritated. And he was probably so confused. He thought like, oh my God, that's what you're saying. Like, what do you mean you're not? But hearing it was like, no, that's not right. But as the coach, that can be frustrating because you're like, wait a minute, that's what you just said. And I just captured what you just said. But because it just wasn't connecting with me, it wasn't until I got that word frustrated that I was like, yes, that's it. That's it, I'm frustrated. Then I was able to move on once that emotion, correct emotion was there.
And the only way to get a paraphrase wrong is for you to say, well, you just said you were frustrated. Remember, it's not about you as the coach. It's about keeping the spotlight on the coachee and helping to work through their emotion to nail and acknowledge what is for them. It's not about you. It's always about them. Other comments? Go here and then there.
I have more of a question. Are we at questions yet?
Sure.
Of course. So my question was, when I was reading it and it said, wallowing in the emotion with a lot of processes with redundant cortex. What if the coachee is someone whose existing state requires them to spiral and spin on the negative for a prolonged amount of time? How long do you honor that before you realize it's just not a productive conversation anymore? And when do you sort of jump out of coaching and consulting? How do you navigate that?
So when a person is stuck, as you learn from like the brain research, the amygdala is firing. And they all they know is what they don't want. They can't move to the desired state, and they need you to help them do that. And the way to do it is to paraphrase what is. And if they keep spiraling, it's typically an indication that you haven't paraphrased it accurately. And so instead of asking any questions about the existing state or trying to keep them there, I just re-paraphrase. Recently my sister applied for a job, and she went to the interview and she recognized that this was not going to be the job for her. And we're talking on the phone and she's telling me all of the reasons why she doesn't want this job. And I'm like, got it, move on. But I'm not going to say that. So I paraphrased her, and the first time I paraphrased, it didn't stick. She just kept talking about why she doesn't want this job. And so then I said, so you're recognizing that there's no growth for you in this company? And she said, yes. I want to be in a place where like I'm fine taking an entry-level job, but I want to know that there's growth. And then I could take her to the desired state. So typically when a person is wallowing, it's because you haven't nailed desired.
So there are some instances where you could capture it just right and they want to keep going. After a while, if they're not adding anything new, you stop paraphrasing and you go to that desired state. There's something that happens to the brain when you frame that desired state for them, all automatically. So, you know, coaching is all about taking a valued person from where he or she is to where he or she wants to be. So all of a sudden, here's where they are, and now you've taken them to where they want to be. You've just shifted the focus away from that. And it's hard for someone else to say, yes, that's exactly what I want, and now go there with you. So you don't keep paraphrasing if they're not adding anything new.
Kirk, do you have a comment? Question?
I think it's really interesting about how when people are in that frustration, they can't concentrate on where they are and what they want. Like your brain can't do that, and I think that's a really like sort of a refreshing like kind of way to look at this, because we've all always been in that role, like when we're frustrated and the solution's just, and then it's like right there in front of your face, but like you literally can't do that unless you give yourself the time and the ability to separate the two.
I think about too what it said in that reading was you could have thought about a problem for weeks at a time, and until you talk it out loud with someone, you're not going to be able to solve it or become more resourceful. And that's why it's so important. Like I think about what Michelle's doing at Loudoun County, and like every person has a coach. That way they have someone to talk it out with. So even if they're frustrated, they're thinking it through, like you may have someone who, I think I'm a pretty good problem solver. I can come to it much quicker with a coach than I can on my own. So sometimes people are gonna be able to solve the problem eventually, just if they have a coach, it's gonna happen a lot quicker. Because all of a sudden they access those resources that they need. So let's look at this a little bit deeper.
So there are 4 elements of the PACE, and they can be found on page 106. The first element of the PACE is empathy. And empathy happens when a coach paraphrases for the coachee with an acknowledging paraphrase of how that person is feeling. So it might sound something like, you're worried because. That really it honors that they are stressed. Instead of, you guys remember the video about the nail? It's not about just taking it out of the person's head. It's about honoring you're stressed.
And then there's a reason for that. So that is the second element of the PACE, the content. You're stressed because you have a nail in your head. Or you're stressed, she doesn't even acknowledge that. You're stressed because your head hurts. All your sweaters are snagging. Right, there's content, there's a reason why you're stressed or you're upset or whatever the emotion is.
And then you free the person's mind and the thinking and get them away from that amygdala into the prefrontal cortex with giving them a goal, with framing for them the desired state. So you're stressed because all your sweaters are snagged. And what you want is to have a less achy head. So you're helping to frame the goal for them. And that's important because, again, when people are stressed and stuck, all they know is they don't want what they have. And they can't articulate what it is that they want. So you're framing it for them and you're giving to them what it is that they want.
And then the last element of this PACE is a pathway where you are, and you read about this, and you're looking for a way to make that happen. The pathway is the path to the resources. You are leading them now to their resources. You're looking for a way to make that happen. So let's tie this into paraphrases.
So the empathy part of the PACE is simply an acknowledging paraphrase. You're paraphrasing to the person and validating where they are in their existing state. And as Jenny and Tina demonstrated, you're matching your rapport and you're matching gestures with them. So you're not only paraphrasing with what you say, you're paraphrasing with your body by being in rapport.
And then the content is an organizing paraphrase. I think I told you guys this before. I was having a problem resolving conversation with someone and she went on for 9 minutes about the problem. I'm gonna have to organize that somehow. I'm not gonna give 9 minutes worth of content back to her. So I gave an organizing paraphrase. Now, I would not let someone go on for 9 minutes. I let her go on for too long. That's too long. But generally, they do go on. Problems are big, and so there's a lot of details to them. So you are going to offer an organizing paraphrase where you organize all of that information for them.
And then the goal is the abstracting paraphrase. So remember, we're thinking about the acknowledging, organizing, and abstracting being that higher level. And you're going to learn this later this afternoon, but you're going to give them a goal for which they aspire to, and it's going to be captured in that abstracting paraphrase.
And then once again, that pathway is just a transition statement to move toward the lead. The lead is that resource. Please.
That's a clarifying question. So you give them that goal, that you frame it for them, and they say, no, that's not it, then do you go back to the acknowledging, or do you go just back to organizing?
You go back to abstracting. Once they sign off on the empathy and the content, you're done with that piece.
Gotcha.
And we're going to go a little bit deeper into that this afternoon about how like learning to stop and watch for beamers and assess if that is the goal, if you're getting a sign off on that goal.
So you know how you probably thought throughout these 7 days, why don't they just tell me what to say? It would make it so much easier. So we're going to tell you what to say with the PACE. There's a template.
So this is the template for the PACE. It starts off with your blank. So that's the acknowledging paraphrase. So you're frustrated because blank. And then you pause and watch for beamers.
Now, what you're looking for here is very strong sign-off. So you're frustrated because the team isn't collaborating. If they say, yeah, I guess, yeah, I know. That's not strong enough. You're looking for, yes, exactly. Yes, that's it. That is it. Looking for that strong sign-off.
And when you get that strong sign off, it lets you know that you can continue, and then you could say, or then you would say, and what you want is, and that's the goal. As Tina was saying, a lot of times you can just do a 180. So you can flip whatever it is that they're frustrated about and flip that into the goal. And what you want is your team to collaborate.
And then once again, you pause for beamers. And you're looking for a very strong sign-off. Because you'll get this. That's not, you're gonna pause and you're gonna wait. And generally, they will add more when you pause. The pause is very, very important in this PACE. If you don't get a strong sign-off, pause, they will give you more. So after that goal, what you want is to have a collaborative team. And then they're gonna say, yes, that's exactly what I want.
And then you move into the pathway, which is, and you're looking for a way to make that happen. That's that phrase that transitions you into the resources.
So I would say probably the biggest mistake that coaches make when they first learn this is they don't put any pauses. So they say this. You're frustrated because the team isn't collaborating, and what you want is to have a collaborative team, and you're looking for a way to make that happen. And the coachee is like, yeah. It's just too much. And you might be crafting the wrong goal if you don't get the sign off on the emotion and the content. Or you might have the wrong goal, but you just said you're looking for a way to make that happen, and they feel like, yes, I am, I guess, yes. So the pause is crucial here in order to get those sign-offs to make sure that you are crafting the right goal. I'm gonna tell you this is the one time it benefits you more to do this. Because if you don't pause and make sure you have it just right, then when you get to the lead, you have nowhere to go. You aren't gonna know what questions to ask because you actually have the wrong goal. So it's gonna benefit you to know where to go with the lead if you get that strong sign off.